Hello everyone, it is Friday and you know what that means. It is time for another edition of Friday Fragment, which is a meme hosted by James over at booksheclub.blogspot.com. This week I am going to be reading to you from The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which is a book you might recall from last week's vlog, which I said was a bit slow and didn't know if I would be able to finish it, but I was going to give it till about halfway through until I made a decision, and I have passed that halfway point. Granted, I'm just a little over halfway. I've stopped it to read kind of a couple of other books. Well, I kind of go back and forth between a bunch. But anyway, it has gotten much better since we have left the main character, Kvothe, Kvothe. That's how you spell it, how you pronounce it. I always get it wrong. But since we have gotten out of his childhood of, goodness, then misery, and now he's at university, things has gotten better and a little bit more entertaining, and so I am liking it a lot more. The section I am reading to you is going to come from chapter 46. It is not spoilery, but it is just the main character, quote, whatever you want to say it, is asking Master Elladan if he could study under him. So, Elladan dropped the chair leg and ducked through the gap. Through the window I saw him lean against the white stone railing on the balcony. I followed him outside. As soon as I stepped onto the balcony, the air no longer felt strangely heavy or still. 2 years, he said, looking out over the gardens, able to see this balcony but not stand on it. He swung one leg over the stone railing so he was sitting on it, then dropped a few feet to land on the flat piece of roof just underneath. He wandered out across the roof, away from the building. I hopped the rail myself and followed him to the edge of the roof. We were only about 20 feet up, but the gardens and fountains spreading out on all sides made for a spectacular view. Elladan stood perilously near the edge, his master's robe flapping around him like a dark flag. He looked rather impressive, actually, if you were willing to ignore the fact that he was still wearing one sock. I went to stand beside him on the edge of the roof. I knew what my third question had to be. "What do I have to do," I asked, "to study naming under you?" He met my eye calmly, appraising me. "Jump," he said. "Jump off this roof." That's when I realized that all this had been a test. Elladan had been taking my measure ever since we met. He had a grudging respect for my tenacity, and he had been surprised that I noticed something odd about the air in his room. He was on the verge of accepting me as a student, but he needed more proof of my dedication, a demonstration, a leap of faith. And as I stood there, a piece of story came to my mind. So Taborlin fell, but he did not despair, for he knew the name of the wind, and so the wind obeyed him. It cradled and caressed him. It bore him to the ground as gently as a puff of thistledown. It set him on his feet softly as a mother's kiss. Elladan knew the name of the wind. Still, looking him in the eye, I stepped off the edge of the roof. Elladan's expression was marvelous. I have never seen a man so astonished. I spun slightly as I fell, so he stayed in my line of vision. I saw him raise one hand slightly, as if making a belated attempt to grab hold of me. I felt weightless, like I was floating. Then I struck the ground. Not gently, like a feather settling down. Hard, like a brick hitting a cobblestone street. I landed on my back with my left arm beneath me. My vision went dark as the back of my head struck the ground and all the air was driven from my body. I didn't lose consciousness. I just lay there breathing and unable to move. I remember thinking quite earnestly that I was dead, that I was blind. Eventually my sight returned, leaving me blinking against the sudden brightness of the blue sky. Pain tore through my shoulder and I tasted blood. I couldn't breathe. I tried to roll off my arm, but my body wouldn't listen to me. I had broken my neck, my back. After a long, terrifying moment, I managed to gasp a shallow breath, then another. I gave a sigh of relief and realized that I had at least one broken rib in addition to everything else. But I moved my fingers slightly, then my toes. They worked. I hadn't broken my spine. As I lay there counting my blessings and broken ribs, Elladan stepped into my line of field of vision. He looked down at me. "Congratulations," he said. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. His expression was a mixture of awe and disbelief. Ever. And that is when I decided to pursue the noble art of artificing. Not that I had much a lot of other options. Before helping me limp to the Medica, Eladin made it clear that anyone stupid enough to jump off a roof was too reckless to be allowed to hold a spoon in his presence, let alone study something as profound and volatile as naming. Nevertheless, I wasn't terribly put out by Eladin's refusal. Storybook magic or no, I was not eager to study under a man whose first set of lessons had left me with 3 broken ribs, a mild concussion, and a dislocated shoulder. So that is a small snippet of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I saw him last Wednesday and got some books signed. And if he ever comes to your area, I highly, highly recommend that you go see him because he's just a phenomenal speaker. So even if you don't like fantasy, you should just go hear him talk. And yeah, that's it for this week's Friday Fragment, and I will see you next week. And till then, happy reading!